Welcome to the Royal Chronicles. I'm Hannah. Today we have Mustafa with us.
Hi, everyone.
Say hi to the lovely people. Today we're going to do, I guess we call it a special episode because it's not really going to have to do with any particular royals or anything that we normally talk about. For those of you who are Americans, you're most definitely aware. If you're not, as we're recording, it's going to be tomorrow, but we are about to have our presidential election. And so we are deep in the heart of election season. Actually, it's about to come to a close, a big climactic end. And we thought it'd be kind of fun to discuss the history of U.S. elections just a little bit, not to get dry and boring, how it works, because I feel like this election cycle, our election cycle, has been so wild and so I don't know, it's been riveting, the things that have gone on. It's been very unprecedented, the events that have taken place. And I know that people around the world have been paying attention just from what I see on social media and whatnot. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of talk about that a little bit. And probably by the time this is uploaded, it'll be election day here, I think, more than likely. And
We'll
yeah.
try to do it
And then
tonight.
we'll do a follow up when the results finally come in, whatever that actually is. Hopefully with Luke. Luke just wasn't able to make it with us this evening. It's evening as we're recording. But you want to get into it?
Sure.
So what is because you are a new arrival here, not new, but like, I've known this kind of stuff my whole life. It's one of my favorite subjects.
First election, it was 2016 when I was here, and then 2020, and this is the third time, like a third election while I'm in the U.S.
And the thing about that is all of those elections have been so wild and so different from the way they used to be.
It is. And in every election, what I witnessed, the gas price goes down, but except this election is still up.
It went down a little bit. I noticed that it was
on the weekend, but today went back again.
Of course.
I mean, we're talking about Florida gas price,
but still,
some states are.
It was under $3 a gallon.
Yeah.
Which, anyway, we're not trying to get into that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's true. Every election cycle, they artificially lower the prices.
Educate me. Let's start from the beginning on how the U.S. election started.
We're talking about specifically presidential elections.
Presidential elections.
Okay.
And then because that's what we are about tomorrow.
It is we call it a presidential election, but we're also voting on, in your state, depending on your state and your district, all that stuff. You're also voting on members of Congress, senators, local things, and state representatives and all that. So there's like a whole list of things on your ballot. But what gets talked about the most publicity, of course, is the presidential stuff. We have what's called midterm elections, which is off year, meaning there's big elections for members of Congress and stuff like that. But you don't talk about it as much because there's no one running for president. That's what everyone cares about, right? That's the big deal. So I think most people know, but if not, our very first president was George Washington, way, way back in, I believe he was elected in 1789. And of course, since the country has only existed officially since 1776. He was elected, and we can get into this later, through, I guess, the electors of the of the convention. So like there were representatives of each state that then cast their votes for who would be president, as opposed to these days where all citizens over 18, yada, 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 can vote,
Okay.
But there's more to it than that, which we can get into later. But he was the first one. He intended to only be president for one term, which I believe in his case was 2 years.
So that was my question at that time. Was it like 4 years, 5, 6?
I believe
or what started
I want to say it was 2 years, and then it became 4. I don't know why I can't remember if that's correct or not, but it doesn't really matter because he only wanted to be president. He really was kind of hesitant to do it in the first place. And it's famously, he was offered the position of king. They wanted to make him king of the United States, and he was like, isn't that what we just tried to get away from? Which, whatever,
Yeah.
You know how I feel about monarchy. I'm not like opposed to it. But anyway, they decided against that and determined to have a president as head of state. And so he was elected president, he reluctantly accepted it, although to this day, he's probably the most famous and the most loved and considered to be like the greatest because of the father of the country, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, after his first term ended, he was going to resign, retire, step aside. But there was a lot of turmoil, political turmoil going on. And so he decided to stay for another term. And after that, he retired and went his own way, which incidentally, he could have continued to be, because he was so popular and loved and all of that, that he could have continued being president probably, I don't know, maybe for the rest of his life, because at that point there were no term limits. And today you can only be president for 2 4-year terms, and then your term limited out. But that only happened after FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was president until his death in 1944 or 45. I forget when he died.
Mm-hmm.
And he was president for 3 terms. And after he passed away, Congress very promptly introduced term limits for the presidency, but not for Congress, which we desperately need, in my opinion. There are no term limits in Congress.
So Congress is 6 years, right?
The Senate, which is the upper house,
Mm-hmm.
there are 2 senators from each state, regardless of the size of the state or population.
And those two senates, do they represent like one represent Republican, one or?
It's whoever people vote for. You can have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, one of each. It doesn't matter. But the point of the senators, which originally were elected by the state house, and each state has a state government. That's how it originally happened. And then I believe it was a constitutional amendment that then allowed for senators to be voted by popular vote, meaning by all eligible voters. Anyway, so there's 2 senators per state, regardless of the size. So California, which has tens of millions of people and is massive, has 2 senators. Rhode Island, which is like the size of our kitchen here, also has 2 senators, and that is to ensure equal representation.
Rhode Island, yeah. So one of the things about Rhode Island, it's smaller than Polk County in Florida.
Which that's small for a state. I mean, the size of states run the gamut, but I've actually never been there. I hear it's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the upper house. The lower house, as it's called, is, most people just say Congress. What that really means is the Senate and the House of Representatives, which is the lower house, the House of Representatives. And that was intended to be the closest thing to the people. Whereas senators have a 6-year term, which allows for more stability, I guess you'd say. The House of Representatives, it's 2-year terms.
Okay. I just lost my mic. Keep going.
But anyway, it's and because they have to be reelected so often, and there's so many more of them, and there you get the number of representatives is based on the population of your state. So for example, we live in Florida. I'm trying to think of I don't remember the number. It fluctuates. We have a census every 10 years, and after that, you could keep the same number of representatives. You might get more. You might have some taken away. Depends on your population. So like Florida has many, many more times representatives than say Rhode Island. I think they probably only have like 1 because maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Congressional districts, I'll say, and there's a representative for each district. Like for example, the state of Wyoming, it's not a small state land-wise, but population, it's so small that I believe they only have 1 congressional district, so they have 1 representative.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. They may have 2. I think they only have 1. Anyway, so that's how that's made up, and it also has to do with it ties into the Electoral College, which is one of my favorite topics in this area, because it's badmouthed a lot, and there's a lot of people running around saying we need to get rid of it, and it's unfair, and we should go based on the popular vote, just straight, this person got 3 million votes, the other one got 2 million, therefore the one with 3 million, that type of thing.
That's the thing. For me, like overseas, what we have is based on popular vote.
Yeah.
Which kind of at the same time, I don't think it's fair. Because let's say you win like certain numbers of states more than the other one, but the other one won the states, like what you call them, the swing states.
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's where, to me, the Electoral College is pure genius. And the people that criticize it don't understand it. Or they have ulterior motives that have to do with pushing their party or whatever. They want to limit the power of the states that vote in ways that maybe they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So the Electoral College is, as I said, it's brilliant because much like in the Senate where you have 2 senators per state regardless of the population, the Electoral College, the way it's also based off of the census. And so, for example, we have one every 10 years. The population of Florida, for example, has exploded in the last few years. I mean, just absolutely gone nuts, which means that we should be allocated more representatives and more electoral votes. So right now we have, I want to say like 27, that could be wrong, electoral votes. Whereas I think, like, I don't know, maybe Montana, for example, has like 3 because they have so few people there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the thing about it is that it keeps the large states, meaning those with big populations like California, New York, Florida, Texas. If it were based off the popular vote and not this equal representation, presidential candidates and probably presidents in general would spend all of their time and resources and energy only going to these highly populated states, and the little states with fewer people would be completely ignored.
Yeah, but for example, you have states well known since forever, like till now, they are red states and some are blue states.
Mm-hmm.
So, but on both states, there's,
Mm-hmm.
the opposite side.
Yeah.
Like, for example, let's take last elections. Didn't Trump win by the population, right? Like the popular, vote?
No.
Or no?
That's been very common. Presidents being elected, you have to have 270
Mhm.
electoral votes to win. You can win the Electoral College and not win the popular vote and still be president.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like some states, no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing those states. So why like spending energy, money, campaigning it?
And
Try
another
to change
thing,
it's because it's hard, but
yeah.
probably if you go to the popular vote, you can gain a lot of votes from those states that, extra votes from them. Why not?
I mean, yeah, if it were that way, but the Electoral College it has ensured that the smaller states, when I say smaller, I mean less populated, fewer
Mhm.
people, have just as much sway and influence as the ones like the Californias and the New Yorks.
Mm.
And that's the genius of it. People can criticize it all they want, but it works. It's fantastic. Because the thing of it is that with the popular vote, the reason that one of the more this is just an example. It's gone different ways over the years. This is not a partisan show here. I'll just give you an example. For in 2016, we all know it was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Donald Trump won the Electoral College.
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Do you know why that is? Because California, for example, which I believe still has the most electoral votes because they have the most people.
Mhm.
All of California, that's another thing. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 states where this is not the case. Nebraska and Maine, I think, are the exceptions. All other states are what we call winner take all, which means that, one candidate takes all the electoral votes. Whereas in those 2 exceptions, there's some districts that can, like, one will be Democrat, one will be Republican, and it's allocated as such, right? So the electoral votes will split. But in most cases, it's winner take all. So the way that the popular vote was given to what turned out to be the loser was that Hillary Clinton is a Democrat. California, New York, Illinois, another pretty populated state, are like extremely what we say blue. Far more Democrats than Republicans.
Right.
Way, way, way more. Therefore, she's getting in this case, the vast majority of those votes in those states, which allows for her to have such a showing in the popular vote.
Okay.
But they only have so many electoral votes, and Trump got more of them in other states.
Was this system invented? Is it from the
From the beginning?
Beginning of
Yeah,
okay.
From the beginning. They it was it's not like it was just him, but it was kind of a creation or the brainchild of James Madison, who was also one of our presidents later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was kind of intended, funny enough. I think it was sort of intended to favor like the elite ruling class, but that's not how it worked out. It ended up evenly allocating the influence amongst all, as it turned out. I mean, back when they invented this, I mean, this was a very small country. We had a few colonies, not that many people. Back then, not everybody could vote. You know, it was like mostly men who owned property, stuff like that, you know.
Gotcha.
And so the way that the country has grown and it's amazing how it's worked out. I don't know that it's entirely how they intended it, but how it's happened, you know.
Who runs the election? Like, is there any side, you know, like
Well,
any federal government doing it, or
we as a country that is how do I put this? Our
like some
is
countries,
called federalism. So in this case, when you're voting for president, that's a federal election. It's something that everyone in all 50 states is voting for. We also have state elections. For example, something you can only vote if you're in Florida. You vote for people that are running for stuff in Florida.
But I'm talking about the federal one for the president.
Yeah. In what way?
Who's controlling it? Like, you know, from scamming or doing the votes? Is it like?
I mean, there's a federal election board.
The federal election board. That's my question. Yeah. Because like in some countries, like for example, back in the Middle East, like in my country where I'm from, it was for a while controlled by the United Nations. Like they have the systems and people who watch the boxes.
Yeah.
Everything was controlled just to make sure there's no, you know, scamming the elections or adding extra votes, which is still happening over there. No one can control it, or the system is not working at all, you know.
Well, yeah, I think as I was saying earlier, to answer your question, because we have a federalist system, even though it is a federal election, every state kind of can do things their own way to an extent. Like each state gets to determine when it's actually kind of a party thing. The parties get to determine when we do a primary, for example. Like for a presidential election, way back when there were multiple people running for president and then we had to vote, and it was, you know, who all did we have? There was Joe Biden, since he's the incumbent, there was nobody running against him. So the Democrats, there wasn't a lot of hard work there. But for example, the Republicans, there was Trump, there was Nikki
like
Haley.
The next thing we will talk about.
Several candidates
run from the beginning of like running for an election.
And although there is a federal election board, most things like watching the polls to make sure nothing funny is going on, counting the votes, tallying the votes, reporting them, all that's done at the state level. So there is a Secretary of State, not the one that you're familiar with in DC, but each state has a Secretary of State who handles that stuff.
And that's separate from the governor.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That's a member of the governor's cabinet,
so
as you call it. Or in the UK, they call them ministers. But they also say cabinet, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Walk me through the elections. Like, let's say you're a certain party A or party B. How does that party choose who's running, and how the primary happens till they ended up with a certain like person X that's going to represent the party?
Well, the U.S. is famously a two-party
system,
even though there are third parties. No one takes them seriously. They don't get anywhere.
I think the only one who made it like high to the end was, what's his name against Bush?
Ross Perot.
He's
the one that allowed Bill Clinton to win because Ross Perot took votes from Bush Sr.
Who ran against Bush, wasn't he? He's an independent in 2000. What's his name? When they had to do the recount, or he was...
No, Al Gore was Clinton's vice president. He was the Democrat.
Okay, I'm mistaken with someone else.
George H.W. Bush, the father, when he ran for his second term, it was Bush against Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot, who's actually from my old stomping grounds in Texas. He was a billionaire, whatever. He ran independent and took a substantial amount of votes. And some people say that's why Bush lost his reelection. But anyway, generally speaking, third parties, independent candidates, especially for president, they get nowhere. A good example right now is Robert Kennedy Jr. He was running as an independent. I think he's actually officially independent now. He used to be a Democrat. He's not anymore. He's now supporting Trump, but even though they don't, it's an interesting coalition because they're very different on a lot of stuff. But anyways, he's been successful in gaining attention and whatever, but he doesn't have a chance. He never had a prayer of winning the election because, as I say, this is a two-party system. So, you have Democrats and you have Republicans, and that's it.
Again, let's go back to Party A or Party B. Okay. How they ended up from choosing person C, D, E, F till like whatever person goes up and represent that party.
So even though they are regulated to a degree, I mean, they're also kind of their own thing. They're like almost like it's like joining a club kind of when you join one of these parties, Party A or Party B.
I know. First thing, you need to be born in the U.S.
To be president?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you're talking about the primary process?
Straight. Okay. Like, let's say, again, Party A running for elections, and they will have, what's the max number of candidates to run?
There's no it's just however many decide to run.
Okay. So it's, let's say, unlimited in a way, but going to be limited by the money.
Yeah, money. If you can get on the ballot, if you can,
All right. And then let's go through the primary and all of that. How is that?
Primaries generally take place about a year before the general election. Wait a minute. Yeah. And wait, am I getting that mixed up? No, I'm so crazy. No. So for example, we voted for the presidential primary. Was that back in March, maybe?
I think so. Yeah, it was in March.
But I say year because the election cycle starts so quickly. I mean, these people campaign for years. Anyways, so people announce when they're running for president. It's not uncommon for someone to announce, 2 years before the election were to take place. A or B. I mean, they get started quick, and of course, you are limited by money. I mean, these people are raking in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars are spent on these campaigns. And you do have to pay and you do have to qualify to get on ballots. Every state has their own process. And it's, you have to do it 50 different times basically to get on the ballots of every state. And I don't know the procedures in every state anyway. So that's that. It's not uncommon for there to be, 10, 15 candidates in the beginning. I mean, maybe not 15, but a lot. I remember in 2012, which would have been Obama's reelection, and who were the Republicans, right? Mitt Romney. It doesn't really matter. I just vividly remember the primary there was like 20 people running or something.
Okay.
But anyway, and as I say, the parties are kind of their own. They kind of do their own thing, so they get to decide more or less when you're going to vote. And some states are an open primary state, which means you don't have to be registered with either party to vote. You just have to choose. You can vote for in this party's primary, A or B, but not both, obviously. Some are closed, which means you have to be a registered member of Party A to vote in their primary, etc. The primary election day comes around, and it's staggered throughout the year. Like we have one called Super Tuesday where there's, I don't know how many states all vote at the same time on in the primaries for president. And then sometimes it's split up, like Party A will have their primary, and then Party B, it's fairly common, will have their primary on a different day, whatever. And then usually you have an idea of who's going to win. At that point, the primary, every state is voting. And as the months go by, people kind of know the closer you get to summer, whether or not somebody's going to lock it up. And generally speaking, Iowa is always the first one. And that's a big deal. Everybody's in Iowa trying to, even it's a small state, but they're the first ones. And, little by little, you'll have people that don't get enough to keep going. Their money dries up, they drop out, and there's just, fewer and fewer people until eventually you're left with the last one standing.
Okay.
And then each party has a convention. It's always in the summer, and not at the same time. And then the person that's the funny thing though, is that you go through all these primaries, and if you're last one standing, you won the most. So you go to the convention, and then you have to officially be made the nominee via the delegates that are sent there by the members of the parties in all the states, because every state has their own state level of the party.
Okay.
And then they go through that whole process, nominate, and there you go.
Gotcha. So, some not a states, but for example, Puerto Rico.
Territory.
Territory. It's not a state. Can someone from Puerto Rico run for president to be a U.S.A. president?
No.
Even though they have a U.S. president, a U.S. citizenship, I mean?
They have a U.S. passport. I don't believe if you were born there, you can be president, because it's still a territory. Puerto Rico cannot vote in presidential elections. However, they are permitted to vote in the primaries, because like I say, the parties are kind of like their own little club.
That's new to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they can.
They also have representatives in Congress, but they are not allowed to vote in Congress. They're just there to kind of.
If you were born there.
Yeah.
But you moved from Puerto Rico, for example, to Florida, since it's Florida or New York has a lot of Puerto Ricans too. They can vote in the election because they become a citizen of that state.
Yeah.
But if they stay in Puerto Rico, no. You cannot.
Same goes for Guam. Same goes for the U.S. Virgin Islands. All that.
Gotcha. All right.
As far as I know. Yeah.
So let's go back to trying to think of a question.
It's funny. Some people are saying that maybe that's an outdated rule and we should stop doing that, meaning only allowing people who were born in the 50 states to run for president so that Elon Musk can run for president. Because as we know,
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
But he was not born.
That's what I'm saying. Some people are saying we should change that rule so he
can.
Or people like him.
Gotcha, yeah.
Because we all know he's originally from South Africa, but
yeah, he's not from here. I was like, oh, what? Hawaii, they can vote because it's a state now.
They've been a state since 1950.
Yeah,
so assuming
after World War II,
you weren't born before then. But anyway, I don't even know if that would matter. And they used to be a kingdom. We have an episode on that.
Yeah,
about the Hawaiian royals. Check it out.
Right. One thing which is we mentioned earlier in the episode when we were recording, since there's like a federal government, whatever, controlling the elections from each state, but shouldn't all be like running like the elections within same rules? And because now I've been seeing some states you can go vote without the needs of a voter ID or even showing your ID.
Well, I'm gonna dig into my legal background here. Much
without mentioning any party or anything. I need to know how they can, because I saw some videos kind of.
Yeah. This comes down to the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, which basically boils down to state sovereignty, the rights of each state to do their own thing and have their own government and whatever. That we do, we of course have a federal government. God love them. That trumps certain things. But as I said, we have a federalist system. So every state, in many, many respects, can do their own thing, make their own rules. I mean, basically the way it goes is that if it's not laid out in the U.S. Constitution and spelled out that the federal government is supposed to do such and such, generally speaking, it's left to the states to do their own thing. I'll give you an example. So used to be that every state had a different age for what the legal age was to buy and drink alcohol. Yeah. It wasn't always 21, right? because that's a state's rights issue. Every state had the ability to make their own rules.
Mhm.
Well, what ended up happening was, I think, I don't want
Is
to
it
misstate,
Mhm.
but what the federal government
Is
ended
it-
up doing was saying, look,
send it to the Supreme Court or
no, what they said was they kind of bought them off in a way. It's like, look, because the federal government gives money to the states for things. It's called a federal grant, but they
Mhm.
use it a lot of times to get the states to do what they want. So in this instance, I believe it was something like, look, either raise your drinking age to 21 or you won't get money for such and such, whatever the thing was. And of course, you show them the money and they're like, oh, sure, no problem, 21. That's just an example. There are lots of other things like that. But yeah, that's the way it is. And with the elections, every state gets to decide, some states have what we call drop boxes
Mhm.
where you can just like drive by and stick your ballot in there if you got like a mail-in ballot or something.
Right.
Other states don't allow it as far as I know, or it's heavily regulated,
You have to go to and vote in person.
Yeah,
right?
some states, and this is very controversial to me, it is Looney Tunes that every state doesn't do it. But in some states, yeah, you don't have to have an ID. You just walk in and say, I'm so-and-so and I whatever.
I saw a guy today representing certain party. He went with the school bus
Mm-hmm.
to the homeless people.
Yeah.
And he was like, did you vote yet?
Mhm.
They said, no. It's like, come in, let's vote so no one can steal your name or your vote.
Yeah. That type of stuff happens every election cycle.
When you go to like a certain state, you have to be like registered to vote.
Yes.
Or
And that's another thing.
Like,
Some
for me,
states you have to be registered
'cause
quite a bit in advance. Other states you can register, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like the day of.
that's what I saw. There is a tourist.
Yeah.
He went and he voted.
I heard something about
And
that.
that was in California.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
So he's a tourist.
Mhm.
He's not a U.S. citizen. He doesn't have a residency here. He's just on a tourist visa.
It's embarrassing.
And he was like, we were on our way back from the theme park, me and my wife, and we saw an election, what you call building, like a government building for elections. They walked in and they voted.
Yeah.
How is that happening? Right?
Because in certain states, they don't require ID or proof of identity at all.
So
You just say, I'm so-and-so and I live here, and they give you a ballot and that's it. As far as I know, that's my understanding.
For example, a person like me, I can just go and
Not in this state, not in Florida.
Not in Florida. In certain states,
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. See,
Here,
like
you have to.
even in the third world countries, you can't go and vote till you show an ID.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me
And-
started.
So, like back in my country, I never voted, by the way, in my country, because I left at a time it was dangerous to go and vote.
Mhm.
But the first time I was younger to vote, because you have to be 18 and up.
Mhm.
And in order to vote months ahead, and they will give you a deadline. Like, let's say tomorrow is the election. Last week was the deadline to go and register.
Yeah.
After that certain date, you cannot go and register to vote. And then
Yeah.
election day, you go. We don't have
Mail-in
voting.
ballots.
No, you go in person and vote.
Yep.
When you go there, register. Let's say you live in neighborhood A. There's certain building you go to. If you come from neighborhood B, you cannot vote in neighborhood A.
Mhm.
You have to go into the building
You're
that.
talking about precincts. That's what we call them here.
Mhm. So, and they will check for your ID and check
Yep.
your name. Because I remember, I believe it was my brother. He found out that on the day of election, they're like, "Oh, you already voted." He was like,
No, I didn't.
It's 7 a.m. And because he was at work. Oh, there's certain people, like, for example, doctors overseas. If you work for a government or like a job required to you, like you to be on call for 24 hours or something, you can vote in your, if your job was part of the government job.
Mhm.
Like if you work for the government, you
Mhm.
can vote in your building, like in your workplace.
Yeah.
So he was like, no, I didn't. He was like, no, your name here and you've been.
Yep. Yep.
So that's the thing about the election, that maybe, as you said, popular vote is kind of risky
Oh,
thing
it's
in
subject to
certain
all
states.
kinds of terrible things. I mean, there's some states that are just an embarrassment, as you say,
Mhm.
allowing the same day registration, no ID, no proof of nothing. You just, like you say, you walk in there and you just
Mhm.
vote. It's insane. Florida, where we live, you have to be registered to vote, not with any particular party, just registered to vote, which requires proof of residence and all
Who
that weeks and weeks ago.
who changed those rules in
Each
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 state?
state controls it. It's
Like the
the
Secretary of
No,
you
no, no.
mentioned,
It's
or
the state. We have every state has their own little Congress, you might say, a
Mhm.
state Senate, a state
Yeah.
House, and they make those rules, I believe, and then or maybe it is the Secretary of State, and then so usually there's fighting over it, and the state Supreme Courts have to get involved. Anyways, it's yeah. I don't ever. I'm sure I don't have all the details right, but every state just has the freedom to make those choices for themselves. I think the voter ID thing has been constitutional amendments because every state has their own constitution as well,
Mhm.
and that's something that the people of this, like for example, this election in Florida, there's some big constitutional amendments, but they're state constitutional amendments, and
Gotcha.
everybody gets to vote on those. So voter ID might be one of those issues. I don't know.
So one of the things I saw when you go to vote, like you choose the president, and then after that, there's some options,
Yeah.
like more names, what those represent. And I noticed, like in states, like for example, Florida, there's 3, 4, Amendment 3, 4, and stuff like. There's a guide on those, but how the is it like kind of a bill from the governor, or how do they like, hey, vote on this A or B, or
So you talking about
so
like
for example, us in here, let's talk about number 3.
the proposition? Well, it's a constitutional
For
amendment.
like here in Florida now,
Yeah.
there's like on number 3. I'm not gonna talk about on number 4. That's different. But number 3 was the marijuana
It's to
thing.
legalize
So
recreational marijuana.
why that's on the election?
Why is it? Why? Because
Mhm.
it's a constitutional amendment that everyone has to vote on.
Yeah, but is
The
it
way it works in Florida, at least, is that you have to petition to get it on the ballot. You have to get however many tens of thousands of
Mhm.
signatures, and then it goes on the ballot, and then people vote on it,
So it goes to
more
the
or
ballot. Who
less.
approves to goes on the ballot? Is it the secretary of the state you
Well,
mentioned
if you
earlier,
if you
or
meet the requirements, so
Mhm.
let's say you have, for just an example, let's say you have to get 100,000 signatures, and you
Mhm.
get that, and they verify that those are signatures of real people, then it goes on. Then it goes on. I think, unless there's I'm pretty sure it's that simple. There could be more to it, but yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of if you can get that many people who are qualified to sign the petition, which
Okay.
takes a lot of doing and a lot of money and whatever, which is why there's only, I think on in this election there's like
2 or more?
5 or 6,
Hmm.
maybe 6 or 7 amendments, and each
Okay.
one of those you had to get all those signatures and all that
And it
stuff.
changed from election to another one,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
it depends.
So that's one of the questions I had. Let's see what else regarding this election. When is the last, like, how many days, like, you think it would take to do count the votes?
Oh dear God. Well, 2020 was an absolute disaster.
2020, yeah, and we know it was COVID time, a
Yeah,
lot of,
which
but
that's the thing that's
just
never happened
let's forget
before.
2020. 2020 never
Up
happened.
until 2020, we
Let's
always knew, except for 2000, in my recollection. I mean, not all of U.S.
Mm,
history. In my recollection, except for 2000, which we can talk about that later, we knew the results on election night. Like maybe the wee hours of the morning the
mhm.
next day, but like you went to bed if you stayed up watching, knowing who won. And then 2020 comes along, and it's like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, 2020. I remember that day when we were out, and
It was wild.
yeah. Anyhow, but that's the thing is, would it take like more than 1, 2 days sometimes to
It
count the
could. I
votes?
mean, I'll give you an example. And this is why it has to do with all these states have their own procedures. I'll give you an example. The state of Arizona, they have a county there. I think it might be their most populous county, Maricopa County.
Mhm.
I want to say that's Phoenix, but I'm not certain about that. Don't hold me to that. They came out like maybe at least a week ago saying, like planting the seed. They're like, okay, we're asking for everyone to be patient because it could take us up to, what did they say, like a week or more to tabulate everything and whatever. And I'm just kind of like, look, regardless of which party you're a part of or who you want to win or whatever. I don't care. The thing is, why in the world, with the technology that we have now, is it taking 2 weeks to count votes? When I was a kid, and I've been paying attention to politics basically since the 2000 election, which has been, oh dear Lord, a quarter of a century ago. You know, with the that's not a good example, but like generally the states would count all the votes and it would be done that night, maybe the next day. And now it's like it's not just
I mean,
Arizona. It's taken days, a week.
with
Like,
all
what are
the
y'all doing?
technology they have and early voting and all of that.
That's where they really, really screwed it up, in my opinion. It used to be it was election day. You go, for example, tomorrow in this instance, and everybody votes on the same day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever the time is. And that's it. Now it's like election month because you have early voting that goes on for weeks in most states. You have mail-in voting, which used to be reserved for people who were out of the country. Maybe they weren't going to be home for some particular reason. They aren't able to, maybe they're ill or something like that. They can't go to the polls. But everyone else is expected to show up on election day and you vote. And now you have all these ways. And of course, it causes more problems there. It allows for issues to arise. It allows for tampering. And then, when you go to count everything, you have all these different pots you have to draw from. To me, it's just kind of a mess. I don't know, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I'd like to go back to one election day and be done with it.
Done with it, yeah.
Preferably paper ballots, because I tell you one thing, these voting machines that we have, every single election, there is story after story after story of problems. And I'm just, learn your lesson, people. Get rid of those things. You cannot hack a paper ballot or tamper with it. They can't just, the power's not going to die.
Like,
you know what I mean?
With George W. Bush.
Oh my gosh. I remember that so vividly. 2000, I was 9 years old, and I remember watching that and just being riveted by the whole thing. And of course, the star of the show, if you could put it that way, was Florida. Again, that was back when Florida was a hot, hot mess and couldn't get things right for nothing. And that was the election of what we called the hanging chads, because, as I say, every state has their own methods. Some use these machines. Some have, like here, it's paper ballots, and you have like a pen and you color in the circle, whatever. Some, and I think it might vary by county or whatever. I don't know. But this was it Palm Beach County? God bless their hearts. They had ballots where it was like a kind of thick cardstock material. And in order to indicate who you wanted to vote for, you had to like punch out the little hole next to the name. And so the hanging chad thing was they were going through meticulously recounting these ballots. And I remember they were just trying to dispute, like they'd have ballots where the little piece you were supposed to punch out was still like hanging by a little corner. And they were like, should we count this as valid? Is it not valid? It was just a mess. And of course, as we know, that election ended up being decided by the Supreme Court. And the rest is history.
Gotcha. So a president can serve up to 2 terms.
Now, yes.
No. Can, after the 2 terms, rerun for election again?
Never again. Not as president. They're free to run for anything else, pretty much.
But not as a president again.
Can't be president, can't be vice president. Because the vice president, their number one job is to take over if something happens to the president. So you have to be born in the U.S. and not have been president before, to be VP.
For a VP, basically, whenever the president is not available, the VP will take over. Let's say if the president goes into a surgery or...
Okay, this is a fun topic. I love talking about this type of stuff. So
this is like I'm just have some info, like, TV shows and stuff, which is we lately rewatched Designated Survivor.
Yeah.
And how, like, whole thing, like,
That's pretty accurate how it goes. I can tie this into our usual topic of royalty, in that, as we all know, royal families have lines of succession. Obviously, for example, in the UK, you have King Charles, and the next in line is Prince William, Prince of Wales, right? Upon the death of Charles, or his probably never will happen abdication, William becomes king, right? That's it. Cut and dry. So the presidency also has a line of succession. It's quite long, And everyone knows the number 2 is the VP. That's basically why they're there. That doesn't mean that they don't do anything. Vice presidents, their jobs, the vice presidents have varied so greatly depending on, it seems like, their relationship with the president, how involved they are, the tasks that are assigned to them, that sort of thing. But other than they're the president of the Senate, that's like the only job that's allocated to them in the Constitution. And they're there to take over for the president if something happens. Now, as you said, if a president were to go into surgery, if a president is incapacitated, either intentionally because they have to have surgery or some kind of medical procedure, or, something happens and, nobody can get a hold of him for some reason, imagine whatever scenario. If you can't find the president or he's not conscious, at that point, the Constitution kicks in, the 25th Amendment, and the VP then becomes the acting president.
Okay.
Until such time as the president is conscious again or found or whatever the situation is.
All
but
right.
yeah.
So I just had a question in mind and trying to remember it.
You want me to tell you the rest of the succession line?
No.
I can.
The question was regarding the president. So let's say person A won tomorrow till the inauguration day, which is
January 20th.
Is it like every election same day, or
it's January 20th unless it falls on a Sunday, and then I believe it's the next day, which would be Monday, whenever
okay, so
the 21st, I guess it would be. I don't know.
So from the day of winning the election till the inauguration day, what's going to happen to the current president and the future president?
The current president, Joe Biden, will.
He's still not Joe Biden, just in general.
The current serving president is still the president. Nothing changes for him or her, depending on the situation, I suppose. Until the inauguration of the new president, everything stays the same. They continue with their duties. They go on. Generally, they're kind of referred to as a lame duck because everyone knows that they're about to leave. And there's not usually any big policy things that are done. Congress isn't going to be in session, so it's going to be very quiet, or it should be fairly quiet in DC. And they're running out the clock, let's say, until it's time to leave. They're packing up, that sort of thing. The president-elect, as you refer to the new one that would be coming in, is at this point, of course, their Secret Service detail is beefed up as if they are, because they're basically the president. They start receiving security briefings, intelligence briefings. They're getting all the information given to them as if they're already the serving president, right? And this goes on. So the election is supposed to happen tomorrow, which is November the 5th. Inauguration day is January 20th. So they have all that time to plan their inauguration and the inaugural balls and all that type of stuff. They have staff to do that, I'm sure. But
I know it's election day and you just mentioned November 5th, but every November 5th I watch V for Vendetta because it's regarding November.
So we have to watch
5th.
that tomorrow?
We'll watch it tomorrow and you will know what I'm talking about. It's about like kind of a revolution.
I've seen it before. I watched it with you before.
So
anyway, so that's what's going on.
Basically, he's going to be in the circle to know what's going on, but he can't act as a president.
No, he can't, or send troops anywhere. He can't sign an executive order because he hasn't been inaugurated yet.
Okay.
You can't have two presidents.
The other thing, which I've heard a lot through the years, everyone running for president, and they do something which they said their first 100 days. First 100 years. First, imagine, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
What about that, the first 100 days? Like, is it like a promise list, or?
It's just become a thing. It's evolved over the years. I don't know who started that in my first 100 days. It's a little over 3 months which
Nothing happens overnight. We know that,
no,
but
it's a very slow process in DC. I mean, it moves at a glacial pace, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It can be good because that means that they can't do crazy wild things really quickly, but it also means that things, that need to be taken care of and handled, it can just be an absolute, I don't know, quagmire,
Mhm.
to put it gently. Anyways, that's just become a marker. In my first 100 days, whatever. So, the thing of it is that their Congress comes every new term. There's a new Congress. They even have a new number. They're probably up into the 100 and I don't know 60s or something at this point. Anyway, so they'll be swearing in the new members of Congress. They'll get all that started. Then they have the presidential inauguration, and then it's you hit the ground running.
Gotcha.
And usually in between the election and the inauguration, the president elect, they're working on, before they're even sworn in, they're working on bills they want passed, initiatives, executive orders they're going to sign, because a big deal now is like on day one, I'm going to sign whatever.
Mhm.
They're getting all that ready so that they really can walk into their office and sign it and it's done, But that takes time to get all that stuff ready.
So at this point, I think we kind of covered almost everything regarding like election, like basic information.
Yeah, I could do this all night,
I'm gonna
but I'll
give you
spare
some
you that.
trivia about U.S. presidents.
Okay,
You ready?
shoot.
How many U.S. presidents died in the White House, and how many first ladies?
You mean
You should know that.
Like natural death?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, no one got assassinated inside the White House.
no. Okay, I just meant like if they're in office, is that what you mean? I don't think I know the answer to that question.
One of them, you told me that.
FDR, was he at the White House when he died?
No.
He died in office.
Yeah, but one of them, I think you told me kind of related in a way to William Henry Harrison.
Yeah, he's as far as I know, kind of a distant relation on my mom's side, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He served only 1 month, but he died of pneumonia. Yeah,
the story is his inauguration, it was raining and he stayed out too long giving his inaugural address. He caught pneumonia and died.
Oh, long that Harrison died from pneumonia, but recent scholarship has suggested that he succumbed to anaphylactic or typhoid fever. Okay.
Interesting.
The second one is Zachary Taylor.
Oh, yes.
Died at the White House in July.
So these are the lesser known
1850, yeah. After suffering a stomach illness that was likely cholera or some kind of illness. And there's 3 ladies, first ladies, who died at the White House.
Did Mary Lincoln die at the White House?
Huh?
Mary Lincoln,
no. Latia Taylor.
Okay.
Caroline Harrison.
Uh-huh.
And Ellen Wilson. After battling a Bright's disease.
Yeah, I did not know that. Okay. What's your next question?
Tragedies like within the elections.
Assassinations
or tragedies within president for new elected. We all know about JFK's most famous tragedy.
Well, before that was McKinley.
Okay.
Yeah, he was assassinated. And then, of course, everyone knows Lincoln, McKinley,
and the
JFK.
Yeah, I remember Lincoln.
Reagan was shot but didn't die.
Yeah. And now we have Donald Trump twice.
Well, he's not president, or he wasn't president.
But he was a president.
Running for president. We're talking about people that ran for president. And RFK, who his son was running for president. His father, RFK, was assassinated when he was running for president.
On his rally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was at an event.
I remember like the balloons went out and popped and he got shot. When was that? How many years after his brother? Was it
that was the 1968 election, and JFK was assassinated in 1963. So around 5-ish years.
Wow. That's sad.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. That whole family, it's just, oh my gosh, tragedy. So much tragedy.
Right, yeah.
But
what else you want to add to the episode?
I don't know. I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff. But I know this sort of thing can be boring for people. I just find it so interesting. Ever since I was a kid, If you are interested in learning more about the Electoral College, which I don't know, there might be all of one of you listening. I don't know. There's a book I read many years ago, and I still think it's great. It explains it so well. It's called The Importance of the Electoral College. Just Google it. It's on Amazon. It's a very small book. It's short. It's not like this long textbook. It just lays it out very concisely, explains it really well. So if you think you're opposed to the Electoral College or that it's dumb or whatever, or you've never heard of it, I encourage you to read it.
Gotcha.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I can do this all night.
Yeah. Trying to think other stuff like by regarding presidency and the Congress.
Yeah.
So would the election affect the Congress in a way, like the presidential elections?
Like, are we voting on new members of Congress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
every state. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And can the president?
We're not, because our representative is not currently up for re-election. I think that'll be next in
but
2 years.
What do you call it? Is it the Supreme Court get chose by the president or?
The Supreme Court. Yes. So the Supreme Court, there are 9 justices. They are nominated by the president. They then have to be approved by the Senate. If the Senate does not approve, they don't get on the Supreme Court. But once they're on, you're there for life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about impeachment? Who can impeach the president?
This is another interesting thing, because when all that was happening with Trump, and it's the most recent example, this happened to Bill Clinton back in the 90s also. Impeachment, people think that if it starts in the House and there's a committee, I don't know what title, and that will, investigate and whatever. And at the end of all the nonsense, will recommend that, President A or B or whatever be impeached for such and such reasons. And it's in the Constitution. It lays out the things that you can impeach, someone for. The most commonly used phrase, or most famous, is probably high crimes and misdemeanors. But, there's a list. You could look it up. But so it goes to the House, the House of Representatives, who then will vote as a body. And people think, for example, with Trump, I heard people say, and it's probably happened with Clinton too, no doubt, because Clinton was also impeached. And so this is an example of a Republican and a Democrat. It happened to both of them. If the House votes to impeach, there's a lot of people that are under the belief that means that's it. They're impeached and they're removed from office. That's not how it works at all. The House of Representatives will vote, and if they vote to impeach, the president is impeached, but that doesn't mean removal from office. It then has to go to the Senate, who will have their own process and hearings and all of this, and it is they who have to vote to remove the president from office. So in both cases, Trump and Clinton, the Senate voted not to remove them from office. So it's a multi-step process. It's not as easy as just going to the House and voting to impeach and that's it. No, much more to it than that.
Okay. So we covered the, what's
you can also can impeach federal judges in the same way as presidents.
So we talked about the primaries. You kind of covered it. And Super Tuesday, you called it. And there's something else. I was just looking for questions. Caucus.
A caucus?
Yeah.
It just literally means like a body. It's Latin, I believe. To caucus means to, in this instance, what it turns out to be is grouping together. So like in the House of Representatives, there's a bunch of different caucuses. There's the Freedom Caucus. There's the Black Caucus. I believe it's still called, not the African American Caucus. It's different groups, that come together for whatever reason, whether it's their identity or a certain set of beliefs or whatever. But are you talking about caucusing like the voting process in Iowa?
So here says like the caucus is a meeting or a series of meetings which the leaders of typical members of a certain political party select nominees for local, state, or
Yeah.
national offices.
It's just another voting process.
Mhm.
It's a minority. Iowa does it. I think New Hampshire does it.
Mhm.
They caucus instead of vote in the primary, but it turns out to be the same thing. I don't really know how it all works. I've never participated in it. I've never lived in a state that did that. Never voted, I should say, in a state that did that. But yeah.
Okay. We talked about the conventions,
Mhm.
and there's something I never. This is the first time I've been gerrymandering.
Who?
Gerrymandering is a practice in the U.S. politics.
Gerrymandering.
Jerry? Oh, that's Jerry.
Okay. Gerrymandering, GERRYMANDERING.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a process by which, and this is a state by state thing
Mhm.
also, the congressional districts are drawn. So, and I believe it's done in the state house
Uh-huh.
and the the court may
It
have to
says-
approve it. I forget. But what it means is that the party in power, let's say party A is in power, they have the majority in the state house.
Mhm.
They will try to draw the congressional districts to favor their party. So often you'll see maps with the lines of congressional districts that look so weird, like it doesn't make any sense at all, but they're doing it to take in places that they know are going to be favorable to them in
Mhm.
certain districts and leave out areas that are less favorable. And so gerrymandering is it's basically that. You're doing something to try to favor your party, which is why I believe the court has to approve it, or you can challenge it on those grounds to have it redrawn or whatever. But more often than not, they get away with it, generally speaking. And then if party B comes in and takes the majority, they'll redraw it to favor themselves. Like it's just, yeah, that's how it goes. Like our congressional district has been redrawn a couple of times because we've changed districts. Like this area used to be one particular congressional district. Now it's a different one, and we have a different representative and whatever. Although in this area, it's of a particular, I don't know, bent. So the representatives are basically the same type of people. It's not like it's a big change or anything, you know?
Gotcha. Well, think I'm good at this point.
Are you
know.
overwhelmed? I really didn't intend to overwhelm. When I get started on these topics,
I'm just trying to
can
find
just
some
keep going.
questions, but you kind of covered it all, and
You have no more burning questions.
no more burning questions.
We'll have to do it. Like I say, we need to do a follow up. It can be a little bit more fun after the election, just because I guarantee you all kinds of crazy stuff is going to happen. Like Lord knows what. But.
So, yeah, I'm just thinking. You know how many presidents been impeached before?
Trump, Clinton.
But Trump, yeah, Clinton.
I don't remember if there are more. There may be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are. I just can't remember.
Oh, good question. So, in case,
Nixon was almost impeached, but he resigned before they could do that.
Oh yeah, so
that would have happened.
So
for sure.
he resigned before his,
or was he impeached and not removed? Hadn't been removed.
Let's
yet?
say not him, just in general, certain president, serving 4 years before the 4 years ends and decide to rerun or someone else, he resigned. The vice president take over, right?
Yeah. So
till when? Till the
until the end of what?
So he will serve the rest of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
But funny enough, the VP that takes over for a president that resigns can then go and run for serve 2 full terms in their own right, even if they were. Let's say a president was elected and they pass away in the first year of their term, and the VP takes over for 3 years,
and then he can run for.
I think they could still run
twice.
Let me think about that. Yeah, because they weren't the one. I think so. I should know that. Now I'm questioning myself. I think they could then run for two full terms because the original wasn't theirs. It was I don't know.
Gotcha.
Gosh, now I'm questioning myself. I'm not sure. That's the first time I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just something in mind. Like will they do like an early elections for the,
No, no.
or just the
It's
VP
always at the
will
same time.
serve the rest of
Yeah.
the term and then
There is no moving around elections. No, that doesn't happen here.
what if they impeach the vice president or something else happened to the vice president who just became the president?
Ah, this is a new topic.
Who's going to take
So,
after?
in the absence of the VP, they're removed, they resign.
This is the Speaker of the House?
No, the president gets to nominate a new one. It's like nominating
No,
a
I'm saying,
justice
let's
to the
say
Supreme Court.
the president is gone.
Yeah.
Vice president take over. President assassin, whatever,
Yeah.
resign. Vice president take over.
Uh-huh.
Vice president is gone. Same thing. Who's gonna be the third person in the permit to take over?
Okay, let me see if I get this straight. The president's gone, the VP takes over. Something
the-
happens to the vice
VP,
president?
Yeah.
Also, that's become the
Also,
president?
Yeah.
Then it's the Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House. And who's after the Speaker of the House? I just need to know like
I believe it's the president pro
Mhm.
temp of the Senate.
Okay.
And after that, it's the Secretary of State. And then it's all the secretaries in the cat. It just goes down the line.
Gotcha.
You know?
And nothing like
And I believe it's true, as in Designated Survivor, that the last one on the list is the Secretary of, what was he in the show? HUD?
yeah,
Housing and
like
Urban
that.
Development?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Something like that.
No, but I'm just looking like would the, for example, other agencies like the FBI or CIA be involved or
Like to become president?
yeah?
No.
No. Okay.
If you go through that many people, there's something
There's
horrible, something terrible has happened, and I think
Yeah, I
you'd be
need to
restructured.
stop
You'd have a
watching
new
TV.
government entirely. Like I
No,
don't
no,
know.
I'm just thinking about House of Cards. That's a good show.
Oh,
kinda,
yeah.
in a
Lord.
way.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding elections and your favorite movie,
All the President's Men.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about the Nixon thing,
Mm-hmm.
the
That's
Watergate scandal. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that movie. Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman. It's great. Fantastic.
Let's see. There's since we're talking about movies about the elections or like entertainment about the elections, there was a movie by Kevin Costner. I forgot the name of it. I'll look it up when he's the
It's called like
last
Swing Vote or something
something.
like that.
Yeah, swing vote when he's the last person need to vote to decide the president,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows you how both sides start like.
So unrealistic. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
was
it's
so
unrealistic,
crazy.
but it's kind of funny in a way.
Yeah.
And
There's a show I watched. Well, it's old now. Gosh, it's been however many years
and
ago.
again,
Early 2000s.
uh-huh.
It was Gina Davis playing the first female president. I just like shows like that for all the like the mechanics of it, how
Mhm.
things, whatever. It was called Commander in Chief, and it only lasted one season, but
Yeah,
it was interesting.
and then
Of course,
they
West
made-
Wing,
yeah.
that was a big thing.
It was,
Went on
it
for
was fun,
many
West
years.
Wing. And then they did Veep. It's kind of comedy.
Oh
in
gosh,
a way.
Veep. Oh my gosh, yeah.
What else?
There's a
House
movie
of
called The
Cards.
American President. Michael Douglas is the president.
Yeah, and there's
Dave.
Dave,
I love
that's
that movie.
yeah,
Who was in that movie? I know Sigourney Weaver, but who?
the actor. I mean,
Oh my gosh. I can see his face, and I can't think of his name.
Dave movie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Okay, the cast of it is Kevin Kline,
Kevin Kline. Yeah,
Frank Langley.
yeah,
Okay, Ben Kingsley was in it too.
yeah. It's a great
Okay,
movie.
yeah, I remember it when
Ben Kingsley is the VP.
he plays like he's like something with he's an accountant or something.
No,
but he looks,
Kevin Kline. He runs like this temp agency,
Mm.
like getting people temp jobs or whatever. And he also is an impersonator of the president, in
President,
the movie because
yeah.
he looks exactly. I mean, he's
and then
playing
the
both
president
parts.
dies.
No, the president gets caught in a situation, but he has like a heart attack and he's in a coma or something.
okay.
And his chief of staff and whatever conniving people decide there's no way that we're going to let the vice president take over because they don't like him and they want to stay in power and all this. So instead of telling people what happened, they get a hold of Kevin Kline because he's an impersonator. And they're like, look, the president really needs you. You look just like him. Sometimes, you use body doubles for security or whatever. And so they use him because this all happens like an event in a hotel, and that shouldn't be giving away the movie, but it's funny. But what happens is Kevin, he starts acting as the president and like doing official things,
Yeah.
going rogue, but it's funny.
Yeah, the
How there's First Daughter
first
with
daughter, Kate
Katie
Holmes.
Holmes. There's one that's lesser known. It's kind of in the same vein. It's called Chasing Liberty. It's Mandy Moore. She's the daughter of the president.
President, and she goes to college or something.
It's something like that. I don't know.
There is a movie.
Not elections,
Nicolas
but
Cage. He's a Secret Service for the First Lady.
oh
It was
yes,
funny.
with
What's her name?
Shirley MacLaine
What was the name of the
guarding
movie?
Tess.
Yeah, it
I've
was
seen
kind
that.
of good.
I think I've seen every movie that has anything to do
Yeah,
with.
White House Down.
Yeah, yeah,
That was kind of funny movie.
funny.
Like in a way, like how the one who's applying for a job in the White House, save the
Mhm.
White House and the president, and you
Yeah.
know, it's like kind of like okay, the cringe in it.
Mm-hmm.
But JFK by Kevin Costner is
Yeah,
good too.
yeah.
Is it Kevin Costner? Yeah,
Eh,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
There's one with Josh Brolin playing George W. Bush. Have you seen it?
Oh, W? No, I've
Yeah,
never seen
W.
it.
Yeah, that's a.
Oh, I
kinda
know
good.
one about an election. It's called Game Changer. It's about the 2008 election. It's about Sarah Palin predominantly, but John McCain's campaign against Obama and all that.
Mm.
Which it's
Who's your best actor as a president? Play the president.
oh gosh, I don't. I
Get
don't know.
out of my plane.
Oh, I can't believe I hadn't even
Harrison
dawned on me.
Ford.
Air Force
Air Force One.
I mean, he's never in the White House in that movie, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's great.
Not-
Love him in that movie.
Let's see what else. There's a lot of movies.
Yeah,
I mean, the latest one, Reagan. We didn't watch it
I haven't
yet.
seen it yet.
Uh,
There's a little bit. I mean, they talk about him, but he's not in it. Argo. That's during Carter's presidency.
yeah, Argo
the movie, yeah.
with Ben Affleck. Yeah,
yeah. That's probably my second favorite movie of all time.
There is. I'm trying to think which one. Like one of, if you don't like, it's not realistic or related to any president. Was kind of making fun of a young president was Independence Day, the movie.
Oh yeah,
when he's a president, but not much that popular because he was young.
Yeah,
and you can see
quote
all of
unquote
his
young.
yeah, all of his cabin does not like him till they
Yeah.
get attacked by aliens. But the actor he played good in
That's
that movie.
wild.
There's Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah, that's
too.
a good.
We watched
Morgan Freeman.
but he was not the president. He was the vice president, I believe.
He's president in one of them.
The
You
last one, he was the president.
Yeah.
Because it was Olympus Has Fallen, and then London Has Fallen, and then the third one, which wasn't that big of a hit. We watched it.
Yeah,
when-
I've seen. Yeah, the last
when Morgan
one.
Freeman, he's like fishing or something. They got
Yes.
attacked by drones at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. It was Jared Butler. He was the bodyguard
Mm-hmm.
in it.
Yeah, good stuff. That's my favorite genre. Whatever you call that, political thrillers, political stuff. I don't know.
And there's
It's
one.
fun. Well, American
You-
politics and also
Clint
anything.
Eastwood. He was a movie. I forgot. He was like a bodyguard of.
He was a Secret
president.
Service agent, and the
And-
story it's a fictional story, but
Mhm.
apparently he blames himself for JFK being shot. I think.
Mhm, maybe. I think it's called Nine. What is it? The
In
in the line of fire. Yeah, he has that one.
I think that's the story. I'm not, or maybe it was a different president. I'm not sure.
There's one about Chuck Norris as a president. Oh, hell.
Okay.
Amistad. Okay. Chasing Liberty. Yes, that's the one
Yeah.
with Mandy Moore.
Anyway, and then there's the presidents that are portrayed in The Crown. To get back to royalty,
Oh, which one?
JFK.
Oh,
What?
I don't remember because I never watched The Crown much.
There's that episode where JFK and Jackie come to Buckingham Palace and all that. No?
Mm,
Anyways,
yeah. Dave, we mentioned it.
and then when Princess Margaret goes on her tour and has to go charm, I believe it was Lyndon Johnson, LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's portrayed in that show too. Anyhow.
Man of the Year by What's
Oh,
his
that sounds
name?
familiar.
Robin Williams. Political show decided to run.
Anyway.
He's a host of a political show decided to shake things by running for a president. Okay, that's a
Oh my gosh.
Jackie about Jacqueline Kennedy.
Yeah, I think I've seen everything
That
that ever
I
has to do
think,
with the Kennedys ever.
and I think there's a movie about Nixon played by Anthony Hopkins. I never watched.
Yeah,
I
I've
never seen
those
it.
too.
Yeah.
There's one. There's another one about Nixon. I'm trying to think what it's called.
There's one about LBJ played by Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, seen that. One of my least favorite presidents, LBJ.
Vice, remember it? I think it played by what's his name? It was kind of like making Dick Cheney. I think it was about Dick Cheney.
Oh, there is a movie about Dick Cheney. I've seen that.
What's his name played it? It's called Vice.
I don't remember.
Or
Vice as in vice president. Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name played him? The one who played Christian Bell.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and with Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld.
See, I
There's
not
Frost
that at all.
Nixon.
I've seen that.
That's another one about Nixon. Yeah,
Nixon's an interesting cat. He gets a bad
Lincoln.
rap.
Have you seen the movie?
Which?
2012, and played by Daniel Day Lewis.
What is it?
Just Lincoln. It's called.
Lincoln.
It's about
how
like regarding like the Civil War and
yeah, no, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so yeah, those are the movies and TV shows. That's the entertainment side of it.
I'll tell you how nerdy I am and how just ever since I was like as long as I can remember, I have on DVD somewhere at my mom's house, incidentally, my parents' house. The broadcasted tour done by Jacqueline Kennedy when she was first lady. She did a tour of the White House because her big thing when she was in office was restoring it and trying to track down original pieces that had gone missing and whatever. Yeah, when I read about that had been a thing, I looked it up and sure enough, it was on DVD. So part of my collection.
Since you just talked about that, I remember the other day you mentioned it about the White House and tours. What's in if you go to the White House, I know the other day in a podcast, I think it was with Joe Rogan, Trump, and he mentioned he went to Lincoln bedroom.
Yeah.
He said the bed is huge. And you know how Trump said
because Lincoln was extremely tall.
Tall, yeah.
Especially for back then. He was a tree.
The bed is so big.
Yeah.
He was like, but it's wonderful. Like the room is still wonderful.
Well,
is it like...
I'll say I have been to the White House. That's up in the residence, like where the president and his family lives. Didn't go up there, didn't get to see that. But, you hear stories. I've seen pictures. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of original pieces.
So in the tours, what do you see in the White House if you go for a tour?
So let's see. I was there. I did a guided tour and then I was there for another event. But you mostly just see the big, the big famous rooms. Like there's the red room and the blue room and the where they have the state banquets and it's the stuff that's for show. Like it's not used as where the family lives, but it's just it's the bottom level and not the West Wing where all the offices are. Didn't have any reason to go there. I mean, there's the Oval
so anything
Office.
Like memorabilia from previous presidents you can
find,
sure.
Yeah, there's all there's the portraits that have been painted. There's all the furniture that's been there forever and a day. Well, some of it was saved from the fire in 1812 and then of course they rebuilt it and the stuff that's been there more or less since then. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's amazing. It's funny because I don't know, it's a lot smaller than you think it's going to be, which is characteristic of the time when it was built. Houses, and I think it was also in my opinion, it was supposed to symbolize they're not trying to build a palace. That wasn't the idea. It was like, this is supposed to be a simple place for the head of state to live. and have events and whatever, but it's not this huge, massive castle.
It doesn't look big. Like
It's not.
And when you watch it in a movie or news or something, you think it's big. I remember when I went there, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
And you go inside and you're like, wow,
I didn't
this
go
is...
inside. I went from like, where the tourists go
Yeah.
to take picture from the outside.
Mhm.
And at that time when we went, there was like a wall. They put like a fence between the actual fence of the White House.
Yeah, that's still there.
So we couldn't
It was there when I lived there.
And that was 2015.
Yeah.
With Obama at that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there was that fence, so we couldn't go to take
Well,
a picture.
because there's
But
always
then-
protesters out there.
Yeah,
There's always
but
somebody
then
being
there's
crazy.
like a small like part of the fence
Mhm.
from like just so you want to take a picture, go stand over here,
Yeah.
and you can like see the Secret Service and everyone in the back,
Yeah.
so you can take a picture. And,
Funny thing about that, interestingly, when you go in like for a tour, like the one of the times I was there, I was with the wife of a member of Congress who was, taking people they knew and whatever. I was just there for fun. And the Secret Service agents that are there they're like tour guides, basically. Like they know about everything. And so you can just ask them about, this piece of furniture and whatever, and they can tell you because that's part of their job is to know.
Okay. No, I thought there was someone walking in.
You're looking out the window and you're making me nervous.
Yeah, I thought it was someone walking in. I saw a light. Probably a car drove by.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyhow.
So it's fun. Yeah.
Camp David.
Camp David. Yeah.
Is it for every president or certain parties running it, or
it's for the president? It's like their private mountain getaway.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really, you can't get that close to it as a normal person. I've been in the area that it's close to, but they have like cabins and stuff out there. It's where they can go and just kind of relax but they have meetings and summits and whatnot. But generally, I think it's more for their personal family use. That's the way it seems like it.
And that's in DC or
it's out in
Virginia.
I want to say out in Maryland officially.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah. It's none of that stuff is all that far. But I will tell you though, I can give you a tour of the Capitol if we go one day. That used to be my job for a period of time. It was fun, but didn't give tours of the White House. No. Anyways, it's a good time. Is it Maryland? Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm trying, but I switched to a different
I'm pretty
thing.
sure.
So the Beast, it's the U.S. president car.
Yep.
Their nickname is, and usually it's Cadillac.
Yeah,
it's
Maryland.
Cadillac 1.
Camp David. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I'm looking, because I know everyone knows U.S. Like what's called Air Force One.
Yeah, the plane.
And for the
and
vice
Marine
president,
One is the helicopter.
And the vice president is
Air Force Two.
Okay.
Which I saw a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
randomly when I lived in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
Because where I lived, it was really close to a really huge military base.
The,
and I was outside my apartment. I just happened to look up and I was like, whoa, that is really big and really close. And oh my goodness, I'm pretty sure that's Air Force Two. Wild.
What about the first ladies? What's her position from that? Just like
She's to be the wife of the president, and they don't have any official duties, but
can she run against the president?
Sure, but
no I'm just like a question. Let's say
the
president is running or rerunning for re-election. Can the first lady run against him
if she's a natural born citizen? Over 35. Yeah.
Over 35. Oh, that's an age. Okay.
To be president or to be elected to the Senate, you have to be 35 or older. In the House, it's only 25, I believe.
Okay. Because what's his name now? The running with Trump, J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
He's considered not a Senate. He's in the House or Senate?
He's a senator. And I believe I heard this on the Joe Rogan interview. Yeah. I think he just turned 40.
Okay.
Which is like, he's a kid compared to most people in DC. He's a baby. Yeah. Most people up there right now, it's so weird. Most of them up there are like 70, 80. It's wild. It didn't always used to be that way. Anyway, that's another topic.
All right. I'm good. Do you have anything you want to add before we
No,
end
I'm just here to
this
answer your
episode?
questions.
I mean, we were planning on doing a 30 minutes short
How
episode.
long have we been
Now
talking?
we're almost an hour and 25 minutes into
Wow.
the episode.
We're gonna have to read this. We're gonna have to rework the title on this. This went in different directions.
Mhm.
I love talking about this stuff, but it's I know not some people get bored by it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we hope it's going to be a safe election. Nothing
Yes, I'm
bad's
just
going to
hoping for no
happen
riots, please.
for riots, and nothing happens when people going to vote, no
Mhm.
matter who you vote to.
Mhm.
Hopefully, everyone will stay safe.
Yeah.
No craziness, nothing. Because you know this. I think this election is one of the most kind of critical elections in the U.S. history.
It feels that way.
Kind
It's
of
because the candidates are so different, so completely different directions that yeah, there's going to be big change one way or the other.
with kind of a history in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's feels weird, and I mean,
And according to my dad, we're all going up to DC soon, so we hope for calm and regardless of how it turns out, like that's the plan. So
Yeah.
we'll see what's going to happen.
I'll see. I mean, if it's snowing, I'm not going. You know,
It's January.
I don't want to get sick. You know, if it rains, I get sick.
Oh
I
my
imagine
gosh.
snowing and cold.
Bundle up, Buttercup. It's going to
Yeah.
be okay.
So yeah, I mean, all we want to wish everyone to be safe, and it's just like a sport. You lose one
It's a
day,
blood sport, unfortunately.
yeah, you win the other day. So no matter what, I hope everyone will be united in a way. No matter
That'd
what's
be
your
nice. It hasn't been that way in a long time.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's
Very
been
long time.
divided, but people should be united. No matter what's your political view, just accept the other one.
Well,
Don't.
I mean, we can do our best. It's
Yeah, I mean, just
people are. It's just so polarized that there's only so much
at the moment.
uniting that can happen.
That's what I've been noticing. I'm a person who cannot vote, but I've been seeing people from both sides. If you vote for the other side, that's it. We are no longer friends.
Yeah.
What happened to
It didn't used to be that way.
It's your point of view, and I respect it. And this is my view on certain thing. You should respect it,
because the differing opinions are so different.
Yeah.
It used to be that the difference between like a liberal Democrat and a Republican or conservative, whatever, like there were differences, but there was more things in common back in the day. Not anymore.
One last question, just remembered, since RFK Junior, now he's endorsing Trump. So that's mean there's no third party running.
Well, he was never
election?
a part. He was running as an independent. He wasn't a part of any party.
Yeah, like I mean, there's either this or this is not going to be an independent in this election, right? Because I think there was one in the previous one.
Gosh, I'm trying to think what was on my ballot the other day. I mean, no one pays attention to anything but the Democrat or the Republican. I think there might have been someone running. There's usually someone that runs for the Libertarian Party, the Green Party.
Yeah.
You know, some random person that gets on the ballot in one state but not another. Nobody that you've ever heard of or that matters. I mean, not to be rude, but it just doesn't matter, you know.
Gotcha. All right. I'm good at this point.
Okay. I think we've worn everyone out. Anyone that has stuck with us this long,
thank you.
Kudos to you. Seriously.
I know we've been slow lately.
Yeah.
Within recording and releasing episodes is just
everything's been so busy.
Craziness going on.
I have a baby that's teething right now. Like it's too much.
So
it's a hot mess and a half.
Just want to thank everyone for till now, like waiting an hour and a half listening to us
ramble.
For those who supporting us on social media, thank you. New subscribers, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time as always. Luke and I have planned our next episode if we can just get together and record it. And it's going to be fun.
He was supposed to be here, not me.
I know.
Today.
I know. He's probably sleeping, bless his heart. It's his day off. I didn't want to bother him too much, but we have planned. It's going to be fun because it's going to be.
So he decided to bother me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be firsts, like the first king of wherever, the first, you know, I've picked 3, he's chosen 3, and we're going to just kind of go through it. So I think that'll be fun. Some of them are extremely ancient. Some are not so much, but
Yeah.
yeah, that should be fun. We have other ideas too. It's just a matter of getting together and recording. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate your time. Make sure you follow us, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, of course, YouTube, where you're probably listening to us now, and Spotify, Amazon Music. I think
this one is going to be strictly to YouTube.
Oh,
yeah.
But generally, we're also on Spotify,
and Amazon Music. Yeah. Hopefully soon we'll go into Apple Podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be our next move, I think.
Apple Music, I believe.
Apple Podcast.
I just need to focus on it and work on it one day.
It's okay.
But yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. And
we'll catch you next time. Hopefully, we'll do a quick little episode to
after
see what the results are. So we'll see you then. Till next time.
Bye.